Thank you, Katie, for introducing me and for organizing Antiquity. And thank you, everybody. A very good evening, and thanks for coming on this sunny but chilly spring evening. Today we'll talk about this sculpture, the 18-armed Vishnu sculpture, and we'll explore why it has been labeled as such. Because earlier, if some of you remember, it was called the cosmic form of Vishnu. So, but there was a disagreement between scholars regarding whether it could be called the cosmic form of Vishnu or not, and we'll explore that today. So we'll address that question. So, okay, I'm trying to change. Let me see. Okay, yeah, so here's the slide, sorry. So who is Vishnu? So I'll just give a brief introduction about who this Hindu deity is. So in the trinity of Hindu gods of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, like who are each associated with creation, preservation, and destruction. So Brahma is the god of creation, Vishnu being the god of preservation, and Shiva being the god of dissolution or destruction. So Vishnu is associated with the act of preservation, and therefore, and he, in early sort of Vedic literature, in the earliest Hindu texts, we find him described as a solar deity. So he's described, with a lot of other solar deities, and then in classical Hinduism, with the emergence of these other texts on mythology and stories about gods and goddesses, we see him emerge as a very prominent deity, and then he's the god of preservation, as I said. Now, his attributes are, and we can see some of this. So this is another sculpture of Vishnu that we have at Carlos Museum. So we have a mace here, and then he holds a conch, and there are two other attributes which you cannot see because like he's not holding one of them, which is a lotus flower, and he also holds a disc. So these are his four attributes. So whenever you see those four things, weapons or attributes, you know that it's a Vishnu sculpture. Then his wife, who can be seen massaging his feet here, is Lakshmi. So she's the goddess of wealth, and yeah, so she kinds of is shown in a subservient position to her husband, like this goddess of wealth is then also uh, serving this god who's the preserver god. And his mount is Garuda. So almost most like Hindu gods would also have mounts. So for example, Shiva rides on a bull. I heard somebody talking about Ganesha riding on a mouse. So in case of Vishnu, it's Garuda, which is and we'll see a Garuda here later. Garuda is a vulture-like bird. So he rides on a bird, and another interesting facet about Vishnu is that he incarnates. So the word avatar in English is comes from Sanskrit word avatar, which means to descend. So Vishnu descends as in several forms, and he kind of preserves the world and protects the world from you know no anti-gods, and there are several stories around that, and we'll look at some of his avatars. And in fact, like there was an exhibition also on the avatars of Vishnu, and if you go to the South Asian gallery now, most Dashavatar paintings, the 10 incarnation paintings, are in those very cool drawers which have been added to the gallery, so you must go and see them if you haven't. With this, let's talk about, so I'm going to argue today that this 18-armed Vishnu is actually a cosmic form of Vishnu. But first we'll explore why we decided to not to call it the cosmic form of Vishnu. Okay. So in the earlier label, the older label, there was a reference to the cosmic form of Vishnu, which we find a description of in the Bhagavad Gita. So the Bhagavad Gita, if just to give a brief introduction of the text, is part of this epic Mahabharata, and it's in form of conversation with the hero Arjuna and his friend slash god Krishna. And Krishna is an incarnation of Vishnu. So Krishna says that I incarnate again, time and again, to protect the dharma. Now in chapter 11, Krishna reveals his cosmic form, and he says, and you can follow on the screen: "Behold, O Partha, my hundreds and thousands of wonderful forms of various shapes, sizes, and colors. Behold me, O scion of the Bharatas, the 12 sons of Aditi, the 8 Vasus, the 11 Rudras, the twin Ashwini Kumaras, as well as 49 Marutas, and many more marvels never revealed before." So he says that he's not just this limited being who's Krishna, but like there are all these other deities who are being referred to, these sons of Aditi, the 11 Rudras. These are all other gods and deities. So he's saying that I am all of them. In that cosmic form, Arjuna saw unlimited faces and eyes decorated with many celestial ornaments and wielding many kinds of divine weapons. He wore many garlands of his body and was anointed with many sweet smelling heavenly fragrances. He revealed himself as the wonderful and infinite Lord whose face is everywhere. So, he kind of has several faces, and he has, from the description, several arms and several weapons. Now, what is it that we have? So we do have one face, uh, and we have many weapons, right? So we do see that he has several weapons, but many faces were kind of missing. And these many weapons are not weapons of Vishnu, because Vishnu, as I told you, should only hold a disc, a mace, uh, a conch, and a lotus. But we do see that, for example, uh, there is a mace here, but he also holds a trident, which is an attribute of Shiva. So if you see a painting of Shiva, or like uh, or a sculpture, you'll see trident. And also this khatwanga, which is a skull club, is also Shiva's weapon. Then Vajra is Indra, the god of thunderbolt and the god of rain, the king of gods. He holds the Vajra. So uh, so that's his weapon or attribute. So we do see that in this culture, Vishnu is depicted holding these different weapons, but can that be the touchstone to call an image cosmic form? Perhaps not, is what we decided, because he should also have then several faces. And another reason for that was that there are treatises on how to depict uh, the cosmic form of Vishnu. And this text called the Vishnu Dharmottara Purana, which was composed somewhere between 4th and 8th centuries CE. And again, scholars debate on the dates of these texts. So here there is the description of how one should depict the Vishwarupa. And it says, in the beginning, 4 Vaishnava faces of the god should be made. Over that, again, faces of Maheshwara should be made without Ishana, and told by me before. Above them, Brahmi face, as said before, should be made. Similarly, other faces of all gods should be made sideways and upwards. According to the capacity, the hands of the god should be made. All the hands that are shown in the Nritya Shastras by the great personalities should be made in the case of the hands of the gods. Similarly, other hands should be adorned with all kinds of weapons and carrying sacrificial staffs. Other hands should be carrying the tools of sculpture and implements of arts. Remaining hands should be holding the instruments of music. So we see this sort of description of how this image should look like, and this is an example from the Mathura Museum in India of a Vishwarupa sculpture from 5th century. So we do see several heads there, right? And perhaps it had many hands also, arms which are now missing. Then there is an important thing to note here. In the text, it is said, "O infallible one, another form should be made like that of Vaikuntha." So now, who this Vaikuntha is, and Vaikuntha is another form of Vishnu, which generally has a face of a man lion or Narasimha, who's an avatar or incarnation of Vishnu, on the right, and that of a boar in the left. So like if you see that sort of an image with central head of Vishnu, a human head, and head of a lion or man lion on the right, and that of a boar here on the left, it would qualify as Vaikuntha. So this is an important element in the Vishwaroop images, that there should be the central figure should be that of Vaikuntha. And then there are all these other heads or, images of gods. So it's kind of showing the plethora of deities which are now being imagined in the personality of Vishnu. So, arguing that he's the greatest god, because everybody would want their god to be the greatest, and these worshippers of Vishnu were like, oh, he's the most powerful man. So how do you depict him? It's by imagining all these other deities in his body and in his personality. Then there's another example from the Met Museum of Vishwarupa from Kashmir, and this is from 6th century. So what we just saw was from Mathura from 5th century, and this is from 6th century. And again, we see that there's a central human head, and then on the right we have lion, and on the left we have a boar. And then there are all these people standing behind, perhaps, again, all these deities who are being imagined as part of this cosmic manifestation. So and we can also see, but he doesn't have many hands. So one should also remember that the treatises on iconography were not necessarily didactic. So like they were not just teaching how it should be done, but perhaps they could also be read as texts that were recording and codifying what practices of sculpting were. So it is possible that these images were made before they were codified in the treatises. So so there is sort of a symbiotic relationship. They are in conversation, these writers of the text and those who are making the sculptures. So but it's helpful to like refer to them. Now let's look at our Vishnu again. So he does have many hands, but we do not have several heads. So that was the reason why we decided not to call him Vishwaroop, because he should also have several heads for him to qualify as a Vishwaroop. But then, are there like other gods and goddesses who are depicted with several hands, and are they considered to be cosmic manifestations? Perhaps not. So for example, you can see in this image. So this is an image of the goddess Durga slaying the buffalo demon. So we have a similar image at Carlos where Durga is depicted with 6 hands. Now, and in this image, this is from Gujarat, Patan, Rani Ki Vav. She's depicted with 18 arms. And it was actually Professor Cynthia Packard who pointed out the similarities between this image and that image. So you can see that there's a similarity in the stance, and so there's a tribhanga, which means like there's a posture where the body is bent at 3 places. So the first bend occurs here, then it's at the waist, and then the torso. So it's like forming a sort of a three bent figure, which is a very popular stance and commonly used in Indian dances, if you follow. So we see those similarities here also in both these images. And Durga here has 18 arms. So maybe this artist who sculpted this image was thinking of Durga and then ended up making Vishnu. But that's not what happened. And we'll see why. So then we refer to this other text called the Mantra Mahodadhi, which again is a text on sort of iconography, but also imagining how deities should be worshipped and meditated upon. So here, the text reads as following: I bow to Vishwarupa Vishnu, whose form partakes of fire and moon, whose raised arms are endowed with a wheel, a mace, a bow, and a sword, along with a conch, a plough, a pestle, and a spear trident, along with a staff, danda, along with a lance, with a spear, a noose, a goat, a thunderbolt, an axe, and fire, whose lotus-like face and feet are shining like the sun and fire, who has the luster of purified gold, who wears shining tiara, who wears divine ungans, shining with a group of jewels from excellent ornaments, such as a jeweled head ornament, a waistband, bracelets, necklace, a row of neck ornaments, etc., who has spread out in whole region of the sky, resembles 10,000 suns, and holds a multitude of various ornaments which are attached to his raised hands. So, you see that sort of an image, so there, it seems like the Gita and this text are in conversation about how they imagine the Vishwarupa, except you do not see any description of multiple heads, right? But there are multiple hands, and there are 16 of those. So like, how should you represent Vishwarup? They would say they should have these 16 attributes. And we kind of see all of them in our Vishnu, although he has 18 arms. So my initial submission was, okay, maybe somebody just added two more to these attributes. And maybe they thought, okay, let's not have 16, let's have 18. So it should be Vishwarup. But still, we were not convinced because we did not see any, we had not seen any other sculpture which was identified as Vishwarup and had only a single head. So one of the key features was to have, like, that the sculpture should have several heads, because that's how the description in the Gita is, and that other text, Vishnu Dharmottara. Here it's missing, but it's taking us closer to the identification. So then I looked at this image. So this is from a private collection, actually collection of the Maharajas of Baroda. So it is at the Baroda Palace in Gujarat. And here we see that Vishnu is seated on his attribute, on his Garuda, his Mount Garuda. So this is a bird, and you can see, this pointed nose. So this is sort of a zoomorphic or anthropomorphic depiction of bird or animal, whatever you consider it. And he does have 18 arms. And he has, but he also has these faces. So on his right, if you notice, there is the Narasimha or the man-lion face. And then on his left is Varaha, or the boar face. And then, let me see. Okay. So yeah, so he does have these specific hand gestures at the center. And then on his 16 arms, he carries these different weapons. He wields different weapons. So now if we, think about the depiction or the two treatises that we have looked at, he has multiple heads, right? According to Vishnu Dharmottara. And the Vishnu Dharmottara, as per the Vishnu Dharmottara, it's like you can have as many hands. And as per Mantra Mahodadhi, it's like you should have 16. So we do see 16 arms, and they have weapons. And then two other hands have been sort of left free in these gestures. And one of these gestures is Abhaya, which signifies the fear not gesture. So like fear not. And yeah, and then he holds these different attributes. So Kamandalu, for example, is Brahma's attribute, but he also has his own, which is Konk. So he should have Konk because he's uh, Vishnu. Then he also has his attribute Gada, which is mace, and yeah, but then he wields these several other weapons. Now, one day, while looking at this Vishnu from a particular angle, I realized that there are two more heads here behind him. I don't know if you can see them. Uh, can you? Right? You could see boar and Narasimha. So I'll zoom in. So this is Narasimha. This is the lion head with bulging eyes. And this is the boar head. Sorry for how the image has come out to be. It's just too stretchy. So yeah, like let's look at this again. So he has this bulging eye and basically the features of a lion as they were depicting it then. And it is on the right hand side, and then boar is on the left. So this makes it a Vaikuntha Murti, because that's the feature of a Vaikuntha Murti, that it should have these three heads. And they kind of like represent these different attributes of Vishnu as the ferocious god, who slays. And we'll come to the story of Narasimha very quickly. And also as boar, he kind of saved the earth. So he has that aspect of preservation. So that's there in the narrative, and also it's being conveyed visually through this image. Now, so once you have seen them, you cannot ignore them. But if you don't notice, it's like, well, one can easily miss them. So and I must say, I kind of went looking for them because I had seen some of those images in India. Also, I had seen that marble image from Baroda, and I was like, oh, maybe our Vishnu should also have it. And I was just looking, and it's because of the earrings in the image. If you look at them, like they're just so big that they hide those faces. So yeah. Now, and we see, like, the this image also matches the description, and that text is, perhaps uh, is definitely was composed before 15th century, and it's a compendium. So some of the verses there must have been floating around even before, and they were just compiled before 15th century, because we see that particular text, Mantra Mahodadi, being referred to later by other scholars. And this sculpture is from uh, 11th century, Central India. So there's a possibility that the artist was influenced by the depiction of, or the description of Vishwarupa as mentioned in the text, or the text was codified after the sculpture had already been around, or similar sculptures like the one we saw. Now, who are the other people around? So, because there's a big panel, right, around it, it's not just this central figure, but there are several other people surrounding Vishnu. So, on the left, on the right, we have Varaha. Again, the more manifestation of Vishnu, whose head is actually here. So the boar head is here, but the fuller body of the boar manifestation, the Varaha, is found on the right. And then again, in the same manner, while the Narasimha's head is on the right hand side, he's depicted here on the left. And I'll come to why is that. So we see these two avatars of Vishnu. And again, we felt that, okay, that's pretty random. Like, why would you have these avatars on the panel? But there are several sculptures with the 10 manifestations of Vishnu. But we weren't able to identify all, 10 of them, because and I'll come to them. Like there are more people around, and we thought they were they were not the 10 incarnations, but I have now I think that they are those. So the story of Varaha is basically that there was a demon who submerges Earth under the cosmic ocean, and Vishnu takes this form of Varaha, like a boar who has tusks, and lifts up the Earth from the ocean, and emerges victorious. So we see him in this sort of a stance, and there's that little Earth goddess who's seated on his lap or shoulder. Sometimes, like there are different depictions, and the story of Narasimha is that the same demon who had actually taken Earth down and submerged it in the ocean once got a boon from another god, Brahma, uh, asking him that he could not be killed by a human, an animal, or a god. And therefore, Vishnu took this form of half man, half lion, to trick him, because he thought that he had become invincible. He wanted to be immortal, and definitely, gods won't allow you to be immortal because you're anti-god and you would then destroy everything. And he was doing that. So Vishnu appears as Narasimha, half man, half lion, and kills him. So he doesn't kill him with any weapons, because one of the another like terms in the boon was that he could not be killed with any weapon. So Vishnu kills him with his hand, like he sort of in a very gory way. He tears his stomach apart and then takes out the intestines and whatnot. So if you if you if you go and look at the painting, you would see that he's really taking out these noodles like uh, intestines out of his stomach, which I always find very interesting. So we see these two avatars of Vishnu here, but where are the others? That's the question. So we do have others as well. So then we see this guy. He's Vamana. So again, like there's a story that another demon or anti-god captures the three worlds, heaven, earth, and hell, and he becomes very powerful. So he has to be again tricked, and Vishnu appears as this dwarf Brahmin. So he's carrying a parasol, and and that's what is depicted here. Then we have on this side, we see Vishnu's, oh, sorry, let me show you this. So this is Rama, I say, because we see his bow, and and he's holding it. Maybe this is so, and I'll tell you, like, why I think that it is him, because in other sculptures also he's depicted at that very spot. So this is another incarnation of Ram, around whom the famous epic poem Ramayana was composed, and he's an incarnation. And then we have Krishna's half brother. No, he's actually his brother, not half. I mean, there's a complicated story there. So so the axe wielding sorry, that's Parashuram, my bad. So that's another incarnation of Vishnu who wields an axe, and he kind of destroyed uh, all the kings, because the kings had become very haughty and arrogant. So he wanted to put them in their place. So Vishnu appeared as Parashuram, the axe wielding Rama, and that's him. Then this is Krishna's brother, who carries a plow. So you can see that. No, that's, I think I'm. I actually cannot see. So this is Balaram, and that is this guy here uh, is Vamana. So they carry similar sort of things. So one carries a plow and the other guy carries a parasol. So they look similar here in the image, and I just cannot see them from this distance. Then Buddha is also considered to be an avatar of Vishnu. So here we see our beloved Buddha seated uh, in perhaps the Dhamma Chakra Pravartana Mudra, which is the turning of the wheel of dharma posture. So he like sits like this, indicating that in a teaching gesture that he's teaching the dharma, and so he protects the dharma by teaching it, right? Then here, this guy who's on a horse is the avatar to be. He will come riding on a horse. This is Kalki. So all the 9 avatars have come and gone, but this one is yet to come. So we see him here. But that also still makes 8 avatars, right? Where are the other 2? And we'll come to that. Let's first identify these guys. So if you notice this one, he holds a conch. And this guy is called Shankha Purusha. So Shankh is is Sanskrit for conch, and Vishnu is often also depicted with these one could say weapon men or attribute people. So because these attributes are very manifestations of Vishnu. So they're also impersonated. They're depicted in anthropomorphic form. So this is conch. So this guy is holding a conch, representing that he is the conch. And in worship, this conch would be worshipped separately as the attribute of Vishnu. So for somebody worshipping this image, it would be easier to make offerings to an image rather than imagining to worship a conch or something. Similarly, we have the disc man here. So the Chakra Purusha. So this guy carrying a disc or a discus. So another attribute of Vishnu. And these depictions, could be seen of, they are called Ayudha Purushas or attribute persons or men from almost like 5th century onwards. Uh, and then who's this woman? Any guesses? Who could this be? Durga, Sita? No. Lakshmi, yeah. So that's Lakshmi, whom we saw, massaging feet of her husband on the serpent bed. So she's present here. And any guesses who could this be? This guy at the center? Not sure. Okay, so he has kind of wings here attached to his shoulders. There's also a snake sort of hooding him, and this is Garuda, because vultures and kites eat snakes. So and they are enemies. So this is Vishnu's mount, and he's also worshipped because like if you want to. So why would these people be there, like the Chakra Purusha or Lakshmi or Garuda? They're kind of in the retinue of this deity. So the god is imagined with his various manifestations and all these people who surround him when in the worship also. So around this time, we see like even like 2 centuries earlier, like 6th century, 7th century onwards, we see these images occurring with Vishnu and other deities also. Like the whole retinue of deities would be present around the deity in these frames with the central deity, definitely. And also, sort of symbolizing the power of the central deity, that there are all these people surrounding him. So we have Vishnu at the center, and then we have all his manifestations around him. That kind of makes sense to argue, visually argue his might and power, right? Then let's look at these examples. So these are some images of Vishnu. So this one is from Mathura, and this one is from the one on the right is from Vijay Raghavgarh. Oh, and the one on the left is actually from the Lucknow Museum, the State Museum in Lucknow. And this panel, again, in the backdrop, you can see different incarnations. So, and they are placed at the very same places. So if you look at this one, this is Varaha, the boar manifestation on the right. On the left, again, we have Narasimha. We have the Vamana here. And here is perhaps it's Krishna, somebody I can't see properly from here. Buddha is shown standing here. And we see Lakshmi again. And this could have been Garuda. I haven't been able to identify. Similarly, we see Lakshmi on Vishnu's left, and also, like, wives are generally depicted on the left side of their husband. So if you see Shiva, Parvati is always on the left hand side. So Lakshmi would invariably be on the left side, and then here we see Garuda, and there are, then other, so yeah, it's just them. There's no Dashavatar here, but there are the 10 incarnations of Vishnu here. What is interesting is that there is also the fish and the tortoise manifestation. So those are the first two manifestations which are missing in our piece. So we do have 8 manifestations in our Vishnu, but we do not have the other two, which are the fish and the tortoise manifestation. And they are seeds. So remember that they are depicted on the top, and that's important. And I'll come to why. These are other examples, like they are again from sort of the same time period but different regions. So this one is from Chhattisgarh in central India, and again we see fish and tortoise here. So they kind of begin with here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. They have this order at least on top, and then here we see the Buddha. No, that's the Vamana, and I think Buddha was missing in this one. So but we do have other manifestations. It's not the best picture to have. And then again here we see Varaha, the boar manifestation, and Narasimha seen here. Like, so that's their permanent sort of place, and therefore we have them there in our Vishnu also. And then here we could see other manifestations. So this is the Vamana manifestation, and this is Kalki. So this guy is riding on the horse. So sometimes their positioning changes, but in sorry, oh God, sorry. But in most cases, these top 4 remain common. Now let's look at ours again. My suspicion is that this is damaged, right? This could have been a fuller frame, and the fish and the tortoise manifestations of Vishnu incarnations would have been there. So this panel then would have had the whole of the Dashavataras, the 10 incarnations or avatars of Vishnu, with his Ayudh Purushas, so the attribute people, and his wife Lakshmi, whom we see again in the left, right? And Garuda, his mount. And here, so Vishnu also has 2 wives, because when he protected the earth, earth kind of marries him. So we also see her again here. And these are the donis, so the man and his wife. So they are they might have either sponsored this image, or they have been represented here at the feet of Vishnu, um, expressing their devotion. And that also becomes a common feature in all these images, to see these people worshipping Vishnu, us also representing us humans there. So yeah, and one last thing that I would say is that you see this kind of fluidity. So if you compare these other images, like these Vishnus are standing straight. Uh, even this guy here, he's seated, like he's very stiff and straight. But our Vishnu at Carlos is in this triple bent stance, Tribhanga. And even these guys have been arranged, these avatars and Ayudh Purushas have been arranged in a symmetry of sort, like making it fluid, more stylistic, and beautiful. So this is quite a unique image, I must say, and therefore I think we are happy to have it here. So that's all for today. Now we know why Vishnu has 18 arms. It is because this is a cosmic form of Vishnu.